Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Astro Tarot deep dive of September. I'm Millie and I'm here with Susheela, and we are ready to talk about September. Um, we want to recap August a little bit just so that we understand where we're coming from in order to understand where we're headed. And we were just talking before we started recording about August, and I'm sure you all had your August experiences. I mean, August was a mess. August was a lot. I really liked how you broke it down with the everything going on and then the Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, it's I just felt like everything was in layers. We had this very messy energy of throwing all your stuff out onto the lawn kind of thing, unexpected things, good and bad. And then that I was prepared, and probably everybody was prepared for Mercury retrograde because everybody was saying it's going to be the worst one ever, and I'm like, nah, it's not going to be that bad. And yet, as I said to you, it was like a mosquito. It was like an annoying mosquito in the middle of the night. And then it bites you on your elbow or your toe or something. So you've got all this going on. You're trying not to think, you're trying not to ruminate, you're trying to let
Mm,
it flow and let it go and all the stuff. And yet there's this constant annoyance, and we got really emotional, we ruminated, we got triggered, we
mhm.
evils, and then the thing passes and you're kind of like, huh, what was that? What, why why was I so upset? It- all like little volcanoes all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I think
rumination was real. It was very real. Yeah. And it felt uncontrollable. Yeah. And so here we are after a month like August, which I think it just brought up a lot of things for a lot of people. It was very much a month that brought up a lot of things for a lot of people that they thought they had worked through. It
yeah.
was one of those months. I thought I had worked through that. I thought I had understood that. And the thing with Virgo is that that's the gift of Virgo, that it's able to look at the little details of our internal process and say, that needs to be cleaned out, that needs to be organized. And
Mhm.
so, with its ruler retrograde, it's, yeah, the rumination was very real. So I don't know, I think as we go into September, there is an opportunity that throughout eclipse season, because September does begin eclipse season, to, and I genuinely believe this because of Pluto's retrograde back into Capricorn for the very last time, the opportunity to really clean all that out. I
Yeah.
think that reset, that restart that we have been waiting for, that we have just been wondering, like, when is it going to feel different? I think it's going to be after September and October. And the lunar eclipse in September, I think, is going to have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think, that Mercury is typically the planet of communication, but I think it was also our communication with ourselves, like our future and past selves, our us and our vision, our vision board, us and our higher selves, us and whatever. It was this communication between what I want, what I think I should have, what I believe I should have, what I think I've worked through. I mean, how many people do you know ended up in the hospital or had accidents or freak, whatever, things stopping them from
Mhm.
doing the thing that they feel that is their thing to be doing in this lifetime. Things were just halted, and it gave us time to, oh, am I not supposed to be doing this? Or
Right.
am I supposed to pause? I have no choice in the matter of the actual progression of something. The only thing I can do is focus on how I react or how I feel or what
Mhm.
I'm thinking. But all the rest of it was just like, no. It was like, no. And we talked about this for the last I don't know, 2 months or so prior to August, where
Mhm.
the universe is just going, you asked for certain things and we've left you to your own devices. And now you're doing these things and you think they're going to lead to the thing, but they're not. So we're just going to knock that out. And it was like
Right.
knocking things out, knocking people out, knocking, whatever out of your sphere, out of your path. And
Mhm.
so many people were just kind of like, "I- this has all been taken away. What am I supposed to do?"
Mhm. Mhm.
So we sit with ourselves in that.
Right. And that's what takes us into September and what I think we'll be working through. I think so much of our identity is going to have to do with this, and we'll get into that in a second, but we begin with September 1st, where Pluto retrograde went back into Capricorn and will remain in Capricorn till November 19th. And on that same day, we had Uranus also turn retrograde, and Uranus will remain retrograde pretty much through January of 2025. So here we have these two, big planets that truly represent our inability to control certain things in our lives. And we're talking about Pluto, the planet of transformation of the deep psyche in a very significant way. And Uranus also, I think it's also a planet of transformation, but by by removing things abruptly, if you will. So here we have these two planets retrograde in earth signs, by the way. So I think that these retrogrades are going to have a lot to do with the change in our physical spaces,
Mhm.
like work, home, relationship, even appearance for some people. Um, but this final Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, I think, is going to really help us sweep and clean a lot of the stuff that has been lingering for many years.
The card that I have feels like alchemy,
Hmm.
put it that way, but it's temperance. And temperance is about balancing the energies and having patience
Hmm.
and being able to sit back and allow things to flow. And when I look at this card in this deck, and I'm using two different decks for this month, it it's just this feeling of, okay, we're going to move a little of this over into that column, and we're going to move a little of that column into this column, and we're going to see how that plays out instead of the way I used to do things. I'm gonna move a little of this over here. And I think in a really practical sense, if you feel like your energy is static or your environment is static, move stuff around,
Hmm. Hmm.
get rid of stuff or clear out your office or do something to change up the energy to actually create something that is not stagnant.
September 2nd is great energy for that. And we're recording this a few days later, but really the first week of September through that weekend are great days to do exactly what you just said, to
Mhm.
really move things around to get rid of that stagnant energy. That new moon in Virgo of September 2nd is really interesting because there's a forcefulness to it. There's a forcefulness in terms of facing the reality of things, in terms of really looking at things for what they are, and still this inability to move forward in a way that we wish we could. And that's because one of I think one of the more important components of that new moon is Mars in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces. So here we have this new moon, which represents a new beginning in the Virgo part of our chart, which calls for organization, um, internal and external organization. So that's why it's such a great way of taking advantage of what you just suggested. But Mars and Gemini wants, that's us saying, okay, so if I organize my things, then I can move through this period of time really quickly. Then I can go forward with my plans. August already ended. And the square to Neptune in Pisces is like, not yet. Yeah. So it's really interesting because again, there's this energy of so many things feeling out of our control.
It's really funny because the two cards that I have for that, the new moon and then the square, is this total exhaustion, total
Mhm.
overwhelm, total burden. When can I put this down? And oh, here's a little glimpse of your happily ever after, your nice environment, your balanced energy, your 1111, your bed, your, you know, all of that. And
Mhm.
they're side by side. It's both of these things.
Mhm.
It kind of reminds me of, if somebody's planning a wedding or something like that. It's like this really happy thing, but the build up and the stress and the pressure leading up to that happy moment is like excruciating for people.
Right.
I
Right.
think a lot of people would back out if they didn't already invest so much in it,
Right.
to get it done. It's that kind of energy of like, please tell me there's a light at the end of the tunnel because this is too exhausting to be for nothing. And that
Yeah.
it's not there yet. It's like that end of the tunnel it's not apparent for quite some time.
Right. And I think another important thing too, I really love, what was that? The
Four of Wands.
Four
Yeah.
of Wands. I think that Four of Wands, I love what you said about like that's the sneak peek into your future, because one of the things we have to remember with this new moon in Virgo is that it ends in an eclipse. So it ends in a lunar eclipse in Virgo in March of 2025. So, I think it helps people to have some kind of timeline because when we say this isn't over yet, well, they're like, well, when is it going to be over? It's worth mentioning that the last couple of months of the year are somewhat tumultuous and that we're really working through all of these little things. But September, October in particular are significant. September 4th, we have Mars in Cancer, which is also an indicator of how much I feel the next 6 to 7 months are still part of this cleansing that really begins in September. So Mars in Cancer is going to technically remain in Cancer till April 2025. Mars usually spends 6 weeks in a sign, and this time it's going to be there for about, yeah, 6 months, 7 months. And that's because between December and February, December 2024 and February 2025, Mars is going to retrograde in Cancer, a little bit back in Leo, then back into Cancer, at which point it's going to continue its forward motion and finally get out of Cancer in April of 2025. Whenever a planet spends so much time in a sign, that means that that part of the chart, in this case Cancer, is going to go through a significant change over a certain period of time. So Mars represents anger, what we fight for, assertion, what we feel confident about. And I think that Mars in Cancer is really going to represent what's worth fighting for. And in Cancer, it's going to be this energy of it's worth fighting for my internal sense of peace. It's worth fighting for my inner child. I think a lot of inner child stuff came up for people in August, and Mars moving into Cancer, I think might reactivate that. Um, Mars in Cancer is going to be fighting for my land, fighting for my home, fighting for my family, uh, fighting for my chosen family.
Mhm.
A lot of times, Mars in Cancer can be described as passive aggressive, I don't think this Mars in Cancer transit is going to have much room for passive aggressiveness at all throughout most of this time, truly. So that's pay attention to the Cancer part of your chart and where you are being asked to take action from a place of where you're kind of protecting something.
Mhm. We have a really good card here, actually. I think the Cancer energy balances out that aggressive part of Mars that's been very confrontational with a lot of other planets. I mean, people are feeling it. And when you look at the world, on a political level or all of that stuff, you can feel the opposition to things and the confrontational aspects and the aggression and the um like the bullying, this is just the way it is, and you're too small to say anything, and we don't even have a problem saying that out loud anymore because you're too small to say anything, like
Mhm.
that whole feeling. And so having the Ace of Pentacles show up there is, it's not in the feelings, it's a very practical beginning of something. So when you talk about fighting for something, it's like, no, I need to start this. Like, if you can start anything or push plans forward that you thought were halted by all of the chaos, it's like, no, you need to buckle down even harder to push those things forward, because they're only going to face resistance at this time. And they're that important that if you don't implement them now,
Mhm.
it is that testing ground before, 2025 is the year everything moves forward. All the planets will be in a different sign. Everything will be very different than the way it is right now. And so waiting to do things, waiting for that initiation, waiting for things to be easy is not going to help anybody. So it's a very positive sign to push through the beginning, the growing pains, the practical part. If you need to ask for money, if you need to get a loan, if you need to refinance something, like if you need to stockpile, whatever, it's like push through it, and do not procrastinate. Like,
Right.
this is lighting a fire under your butt to plow through this time, because when everything shifts by next April, you'll be able to like go, I'm really glad that I didn't wait.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. September 6th, we have Mercury and Leo square Uranus and Taurus. So this is the third of three squares between Mercury and Leo and Uranus and Taurus. And this has been happening since July. We had the first one July 21st with that full moon in Capricorn. We had that second one, I believe it was August 17th or 18th, while Mercury was retrograde. And here we have this third one while Mercury is now direct. So it's important to pay attention to when Mercury does this, especially when it's direct, retrograde, and direct, because there is an understanding here. And I think it's a little bit of a harsh truth that is really settling in. Um, on the one hand, I think it is that harsh truth that is settling in, especially about regarding anything that we experienced in August, and just the acceptance of, oh, this person's not going to change, or the situation is not going to change. And what is my relationship to this now? On the other hand, I think on a more everyday practical type of thing, I think we can expect surprising news, um, whether collectively, globally, or just, receive some kind of phone call, have a surprising conversation. Um, on a more positive note, depending on what you may be experiencing at the time, this is a major aha moment. This is a major, moment of receiving information, but I think it comes with a significant decision because it's a square. So it's like, oh, I've been waiting to hear about this, but it's not the transition may not be as easeful as I thought. But it is a form of liberation.
Mm.
Um, it comes with growth, and I think that's important.
Well, we've got the Six of Cups in that position. And a lot of that has to do with revisiting the past or things from the past revisiting us. So when
Mm,
you talk about decisions being made, it is really in your face. if we if we say we want something different, but we're doing the same old thing, boom, you're gonna get hit with that,
mhm.
like very abruptly. It's like I don't think truth has ever had such a platform, in my lifetime as what we're experiencing right now. It's like you
That's
want
such a good way of putting that.
it's like you want to walk the talk. You
Mm,
want to just keep talking, or you're going to do the walk. If
mm,
you're not going to, it's like you're just getting smoted. And so this is generally a very positive card, and I feel that it is a positive card as long as you go, oh, I'm revisiting this thing again. Okay, no, i I'm not going to revisit that again. This is I have too many new things to contend with. I'm going to just do the thing.
mm,
And
mm.
but it's from the past, these patterns that keep coming up. It's like if you feel like, why do I have to learn things the hard way? A lot of people say, well,
Right.
well, you didn't get it the first 27 times. So this is like it's jarring. So
It is.
it's the Six of Cups can be things like nostalgia, um, looking at things in a fond way, but it's also reflecting on the way I used to think things should be
Mhm, mhm.
versus how they actually are. And then when you think, as you're saying that too, how much do we present things in a certain way that do not actually reflect how they actually are? And then we look at what's out there. We look at, we're going through both Canada and the US, we're having all this election stuff, the news, things are presented in a way, not actually as they are,
Mhm, mhm.
presented in a way. So that feeling is there of like, examine things a little bit. Am I being swayed by how things are presented, or am I being influenced by how things actually are? Like, so macro and micro on that one.
Oh, that's such a good way of putting this because that truth is, um, especially if we're talking on a personal level, the relationships that are, we'll put it in terms of healthy and unhealthy, the relationships that are healthy, I noticed like that August was actually a really good month where there was a lot more intimacy and closeness that happened. The relationships that were not, but that perhaps we were trying to make them be something they were not, as you said, it was impossible to do that. Impossible. Um, yeah, and it did felt very jarring. So interesting. September 7th, Sun in Virgo in opposition to Saturn in Pisces. So here we are face to face, right? Sun in Virgo, which is retracing some of the themes we experienced with Mercury retrograde in Virgo, um, and bringing us face to face with Saturn in Pisces, the responsibility that we have to face that.
Mhm.
So, on a very personal level, in a very physical way, this can feel, I think that first week of September can have people feeling very tired, lethargic, uh just heavy, right? So we're talking about the sun, which is our identity, our vitality, our physicality, and Saturn is our bones. So the bones can feel heavy. It can feel like we're having a very difficult time getting up in the morning, especially with that Pisces energy. But you have to ask yourself, what is weighing on you?
Hmm.
What is weighing on you? Because when those two come to opposition, it's our ego versus our conscious, right? What is weighing on your conscious? Saturn and Pisces, that depth, the past. So it's, if you hold this jarring truth with a lot of compassion, with saying, okay, I accept it, this is going to be easeful. If not, this is going to be heavy.
So what is weighing on you? The world, the whole world. And what is that? That is the ego. Because, I've had this conversation going like, this is not the way my life should have unfolded. Yeah, it actually is, because you did this, this, and this, and this, and this is what happens. But I wanted to do all of these things and save the world. That's ego. That is ego, ego, ego. So I always feel like I like the Saturn in Pisces just on its own anyway, because Saturn is so structured and square and edgy and heavy and weighty and all of those things. And Pisces is all, watery and airy, and having those two things together is just wild for me on
Mhm.
its own. And now you have it in opposition to Virgo and Pisces. So Virgo, this organized, meticulous, obsessive, potentially. It's like, wow, you if we got out of our own way, like really, the whole world, instead of it weighing on us, opens up for us.
Mhm.
It's like, but we're so fixated on I have to, it's supposed to be. And it's
Mhm.
like, you just throw that all away,
Mhm.
let it all go. What if you never got the thing? What if the big thing that you think is your purpose for being here never happens? If I said to you right now, it's not going to happen. It's not in the cards for you. It's So how are you going to be happy? And,
Right.
and many people will say, well, I won't be happy if I don't get the thing. But that's your choice, though.
Right.
So it's this weird, mm, you know, everything within, everything without is within.
Right. Well, that's such a good point. September 8th takes us to Mercury moving into Virgo. So to your point right now, it's like, well, if you don't get the thing, then what makes you happy? Virgo is a side of the zodiac that reminds us how life in itself is like a ceremonial act if we do that, right? So we get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, have our coffee. Okay, but what does that mean to us? What does it mean to get up every morning? What does it mean to us that we get to actually use our bodies? How does that cup of coffee feel when we go to work? How does it feel to be able to work? Like Virgo reminds us that the day to day is going to be the day to day. But when we tap into the Virgo energy of looking at the details, how are we appreciating the details of our life and how present we are with that? And there's something really beautiful about Virgo in that way, that it's life gets to be your ceremony if you see it that way.
Mhm.
Because so many ceremonies are about steps and certain things that are done repeatedly. And so Mercury and Virgo, yes, on the one hand, I mean, I think we can try and get organized this month. And I think that
Well,
if we do lean into it, sure, absolutely. But it's not just about that.
no.
Mercury represents our perception. How do we see our life? How do we see ourselves? How do we see the world? And in Virgo, we're able to put we're able to get a microscope, right? And look at things through a microscope. But what are you appreciating and what do you want to release?
Yeah, I like the fact that you said ceremony because it reminds me of, you know, everything is sacred. So again, why are we doing things? Is it ego based? Or are we actually feeling privileged to, I get to live another day. I get to have another breath, you know? So interesting. Well, I've shifted decks here. So we've got the, it's all mushrooms. So um, it's the death card and it's transformation. And I think in this case, it's really the transformation of our perception of things.
Mhm.
When we function from that, you mentioned having a coffee. My coffee is I have a Lakota friend who's probably watching this video who always says like, "Oh, you having your medicine? Are you having your?" And
Right.
it, in the morning, my coffee, that little ritual, is my medicine.
Mhm.
And like not in a dependent way. It's like, oh, that first sip of coffee, like it is sacred. It is ceremony. It's like if you're doing things, I think a lot of people, we all have these people in our lives who are like addicted to self-help, or they're addicted to ceremonies because their ego wants this thing, this,
Mhm.
and they keep chasing it, and it's like chasing happiness.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like you're only postponing it for some grandiose thing rather than living and savoring this moment. You
Mhm.
know, I recommend to everybody, people don't write so much now with pens, but I always tell people, buy yourself a nice pen when you
Mhm.
do your journal, or like that special thing, a pen that's like a fancy pen that, you know, that writes in a certain way that only you know, have. Get yourself a mug. My friend made this mug. So it's
Mhm.
like handmade. It feels good. It's, you know, things that nurture, appreciate those things and create that sacredness or the ceremony, as you say, with everyday things. It totally takes your ego out of it.
Right. When I've had Virgo clients, one of like the grounding mantras that I share with them is, am I trying to be a perfectionist or am I trying to be of service? And
Hmm.
it's something that just kind of brings you back to, oh, okay, what's important here?
Yeah.
September 12th, we have the sun in Virgo square Jupiter and Gemini. Oh, that's a lot. That is a lot. Okay. So here we have both signs ruled by Mercury. That's a lot of thoughts. The potential for rumination is there. So how do we work with this? Okay. Sun in Virgo calls how can I get organized so that all of the things don't feel overwhelming? Because Jupiter and Gemini can bring that overwhelming energy. More is
Mhm.
more. Gemini wants more. Gemini, what is that about? What does that mean? What if I research just one more time and then one more time after that? It's like going down the never-ending rabbit hole amplified by Jupiter. So mind you, a few days prior to that, we have Mercury entering Virgo, so it's in its home sign. Get organized, decide what's really important. Do not overload your calendar. Do not overload your responsibilities. Delegate. And really, if you're aiming for perfection, it's never going to happen under this. Whatever that is for you, it's never going to happen because more is more is more is more is more. So, what do you need to do to ground yourself to say, this is enough? This is enough. Um, you're going to want to be mindful of your words. This can give me like oversharing with a stranger. If you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. This can also give me, I want potentially having like an important conversation with someone, and it's like I want you to know everything. And so here it is. That's overwhelming for the other person. This can lean towards dysregulation.
Mhm.
And if it feels that way, especially with Virgo energy, the question becomes, what are you trying to control? What feels out of your control that you're trying to contain it? Because this cannot be contained.
It's funny that you said going down the rabbit hole, because there is a card that is very specifically about falling into the hole, falling into the abyss,
Yeah.
having just pulled yourself out of the hole.
Mhm.
It's the Five of Cups. And the thing is, it's really about perception. It's not that the environment is overwhelming at all. It's
Mhm.
that for some reason we make it overwhelming. We're like staring into the drain, watching the water go down and doing it again and again and again and again. We're like, how does that do that? I have to become the water in the drain now in order to experience. Like, I would say my biggest advice for that day, and the day is sort of padding it, if you have that feeling, hold off saying anything that you think is a saying or doing anything you think I must did, but hold off, write it down, give it. No, don't write the whole thing down because it'll be a novel. Just write like a bullet point to say, I'm thinking this and feeling this, and revisit it in a week. And I would say probably 19 times out of 20, you're going to go, eh, it's okay. It's okay now. Not important.
Right.
For whatever reason in that moment, it's like, oh, going into like the abyss. And
Mhm.
everybody needs to know.
Right. Right. You know what? This energy is great cleaning energy. I notice that I go into cleaning frenzies when I can't, when I'm overwhelmed, and it's great. It feels great. This is great cleaning energy. You're incorporating organization, your mind, be mindful of how much you actually throw out. But yes, that kind of thing. Something that you can focus on.
Yeah.
That is just like singular.
And yeah, of a purging sort of nature too,
Yeah.
which, sometimes it's difficult because we can't be ruthless enough to get rid of things.
Right.
We have all of these sentimental, you start looking at all the things, whatever. The warning in the cleaning frenzy at this time is be careful that you might be too ruthless and throw
Right.
out things that you're supposed to keep. You're supposed to hold on to that for 7 years. You're supposed to, that was, where's that sentimental thing? You just went, oh, stupid thing, and threw it, into your it's kindergarten drawing or something. Like,
Right.
so it's like, maybe make a separate pile of like, let me look at this in a week and see if I
Mhm.
really do. But it's a very good cleansing, purging kind of like, if you want to go into the abyss, go into your storage cupboard or something.
Right. September 14th, Venus and Libra, trine Jupiter and Gemini. Ugh, what lovely energy. September 14th is a Saturday. This is all socializing, being around people that you want to be around, that you like. This is great energy for an event. Whether you're hosting one, going to one, uh, great energy for like a first date, especially if you're getting to know each other, right? Because of that Gemini. Even if it's not a first date, great date energy. This is probably one of my favorite days of the entire month. It just feels so light and airy. So do something for yourself. Do be with people who you want to be with.
That is really good to know, because we're doing a really cool workshop on that day on a neighboring island. So that's great. But we've got the Hierophant for that day, which is a very, I mean, we had in all of this, so we started off with Temperance, then we had the World, everything else has been minor. We had the Death card. The Hierophant is everything on a higher level. So spiritually, intellectually,
Mhm.
in a practical way about education and learning, but it's all higher vibrational stuff.
Mhm.
So all of the fives in the minor arcana, just like we just had the day before, Five of Cups, or the preceding, I mean, it's a couple days, but that card is all of the fives in the minor are all these petty things that aren't really founded in reality, but we make them real.
Mhm.
Annoyances, poverty, conflict, confrontations, all of this. I don't know how to spell that, but I know what the emoji looks like. And then we go into the major, and it's like the five is like, no, all the opposite of that. In every element, we are at a higher vibration. And so that's what it is. You've pulled yourself out of the abyss and you get to go, no, I'm not going there. I peeked into it, don't like it. I'm going to go do this instead. And it's like that shift into that higher octave.
Mhm. Yeah. September 17th, we have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. Okay, so we have not experienced a lunar eclipse in Pisces in 9 years. The last time that we had the Virgo Pisces eclipse series was 2016, 2017.
Mm.
This lunar eclipse in Pisces closes off a 6-month energetic window that started with the new moon in Pisces of March 10th, 2024. So anything started around that time. Right now, here comes somewhat of an ending or a turning point or a culmination of what was started then. And I think if you started anything, a project, a creative project in particular, that Pisces energy, and it ends with this lunar eclipse, I think for anyone who did that, this is going to really pay off. And, Pisces reminds me of like blessings kind of energy. So on the one hand, that's really great. So we have all of this talking about thus far. We have this eclipse falling right smack in the middle of the month. A lunar eclipse is 3 full moons in one. Full moons tend to be very emotional for people in a sign like Pisces, which is water, energy, all of the feels.
Mm.
This is energy that can very easily sweep us away. We can get swept away by the feels. We can get swept away by memories. We can be mindful of your dreams. I think dreams are going to be big. They're going to hold tons of information. Your intuition, I think it's going to be at an all-time high. It's going to be sharp. So whatever it is that you need to do to not feel overwhelmed by energy around you, make sure that you do that. Any kind of grounding exercises, walking barefoot on grass is going to be big kind of thing. Um, as we're talking about just like the immediate weeks, I think this lunar eclipse in Pisces is really going to be the emotional understanding of this is really coming to an end. So think about August. Think about the eclipse following this eclipse, which is a solar eclipse in Libra, which has to do with a new beginning in relationships. This lunar eclipse in Pisces tells us that's either that's over, or this part of our relationship is over, or I'm over this. There's an element of change and ending. It doesn't have to mean rupture, but it does mean an ending. That's what full moons are for. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and we feel a lot around it.
Yeah, the energy that I feel is like a culmination,
Mhm.
more so than an ending vibe. It's like culminating, like the thing is cooked, the the bread is cooked, the loaf is risen, the, whatever, like the fruit is ready to be plucked, like it's reached its maximum fullness, and you have to take it at that point, otherwise it is rotten, or if you leave it in, it's burnt, or it's like, it's complete. So we've got the Page of Cups, which is a very Pisces card. It's also a juvenile card, and pages are all youthful energy, and the Page of Cups is like childlike and playful. And if we think about that as a culminating feeling, you might think, but that's counterintuitive. I should be mature now, and I should be all of that. And it's like, no, actually, you need to learn how to manifest from this energy, because this is the energy that is free of ego. This is the energy where all creation happens. This is the imaginative place where magic happens, not that rigid, adult, cynical, mature place. That's the burnt loaf. This is like the new growth, the fresh kind of way of looking at everything. On the flip side of this, it does have a little bit of a feeling of a trickster, that childlike trickster vibe. So if you're not going to learn, if you're not going to learn the lessons very consciously and letting go of things, I feel that eclipse is going to have like lots of trickster stuff show up for you, where it's like, you don't want to let go of that ego, you don't want to let go of it. Well, how about this?
Yeah.
How about you? And I mean, I'm using this as an example, but imagine somebody being really steadfast in trying to maintain a persona, and the message is, no, put the ego away, put the ego away, and they're not getting it, and then they show up to do a presentation and their fly is down. It's like, that's kind of the trickster feeling that I have. It's like, it's going to backfire if you don't let it go. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Okay.
you'll be double checking that day, checking, like, did I have my
Oh, that's funny. September 18th, we have Mercury in Virgo in opposition to Saturn in Pisces. Okay, I like this because on September 7th, we had the Sun in Virgo in opposition to Saturn in Pisces. Then we have the eclipse, and then we have Mercury doing the same thing that the Sun did about 10 days earlier. I feel that even in a matter of those 2 weeks, there's still going to be a significant shift in perception, which takes me to, this theme of the ego that you keep touching on. August showed us something, and we're like, okay, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I get it. Yes, I understand. And I don't know that we do. And then comes that eclipse, and then comes Mercury and Virgo in opposition to Saturn and Pisces. Mercury and Virgo, our perception of the way that we're looking at things, our perception of how we're receiving this information and what we're doing with it. And the opposition to Saturn and Pisces is take this seriously. Take this message. Is always going to represent the responsibility that we all have, and the responsibilities that we have are greater than our ego, because we will always have to meet our responsibilities no matter what, and if we don't, they will catch up to us. They will catch up to that's Saturn. That's why it's known as the planet of karma. Like, this is going to catch up to you if you ignore it. That's what this feels like to me, especially a day after a lunar eclipse and about 10 days after the sun in opposition to Saturn, because the sun still represents the ego. And Mercury represents the way that we're actually seeing things. I think that's going to be an interesting week.
And so I mentioned the fives in the minor arcana, and we've got the Five of Pentacles on that day. So it is a feeling of, okay, traditionally it was about poverty, but in a modern context, it's doing with less, learning to have less, whatever that is. So if we go back to our all these big things that I want to do and be and have, and the universe says no. Well, why? I said so, because you're
Right.
not dealing with some other stuff that we think is more important. But what do you mean? But I'm going to have self-actualization if I do all these things. These are my life purpose. And the universe is like, no, it's not. So there you are with the Five of Pentacles going in a practical way. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do then
Mm-hmm.
with just this? With just this?
I love that you said that, because remember, we are in eclipse season. The new moon in Virgo set off the energy of eclipse season. Eclipse seasons are a time where the ego has to take a step back in order for our soul to learn the lessons, gain the wisdom that it came here to do. And a lot of times we forget that. Oh, that's what I'm here for. So if we have more of the material stuff, not that we can't, not that it's bad, but depending on our level of consciousness and our relationship to the material stuff, we can get very distracted by that.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe works perfectly in its checks and balances. It checks and balances itself and us. And it reminds us of who's who. So that's those oppositions to Saturn are humbling. They remind us. They remind us of these things. Okay. Uh September 19th. Yes, September 19th. We have Sun in Virgo, trine Uranus and Taurus. I think this can be a very grounded sense of acceptance and perhaps aha moment, but not like, oh my God, I get it. It's more like, I get it. I get it. And perhaps even with that Uranus and Taurus, feeling in your body how much you have been resisting the thing that that you have known that the universe has been trying to communicate to you. This is grounded energy. Earth energy is very objective.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what's in front of you. Stop trying to go around it. And the sun in trine to Uranus, I think, can represent an elevation in consciousness. I think that for some people, that elevation of consciousness might manifest physically in the material world with an opportunity, especially because we're still under the influence of a lunar eclipse, which is a manifestation of something, a culmination of something. So for some people, this is going to manifest in something tangible, physical, especially if this is something that you've been working on. It's an alignment with who you really are. You have been putting in work. So it grounds us. It humbles us, I think.
Mm-hmm. I have the Eight of Cups in that position with these shaggy ink caps, which are really cool mushrooms. Um, it's a feeling of walking away from something. So walking away from something. So if we go back to our analogy of I want to do this amazing thing and I won't let go of my ego. My ego needs to be there front and center. You go do your presentation, your flies down. What do you do in that moment?
Right.
You have no choice but to drop the ego. The more you hold on to it, the worse it's going to be. So you need to walk away from that thing in order to avoid disaster, really. So there might be expectations, there might be personas, there might be, I don't know, people, situations, professions, ideologies, whatever. And when you talk about an aha moment, I think it's just that, like, no, I need to let this go in order to make room for this other thing, my real purpose. And I think people get, we always think that your life's purpose has to be this thing, but the world is filled with average people. like, like, I mean, it's not to say don't have expectations about big grandiose things, but you miss out on all of the stuff if that's your only focus. Like, things only have value if I do this. And so it's the walking away from something that you put a lot of effort into, you put a lot of energy into, a lot of heart and soul into this thing, and now you're walking away from it. And it takes a lot of courage.
Mhm. September 20th takes us to the Sun in Virgo in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. And again, oppositions are 180 degrees. There's a confrontation, there's a face to face. And I think that has a lot to do with what you just said. The recognition coming face to face with what we have to let go of. Sun in Virgo, I'm taking stock of my life. I'm looking at what's in front of me. I'm looking at the data that's in front of me. And the opposition is, and this is what has to fall away. That's Neptune in Pisces, what has to fall away, what has to dissolve over time. And that's that's actually a really healthy way of working with the Sun Neptune opposition. The flip side to this is the typical classic interpretation of rose-colored glasses.
Mm.
Imagine it, Neptune in Pisces is water, and imagine you trying to hold on to water and it's just going through your fingers, right? Like, you can't hold on to this anymore. We have the Sun in Virgo. It's earth energy. You're seeing the things exactly for what they are. And the opposition to Neptune in Pisces can be like, oh no, but maybe, like this illusion or delusion. So becoming mindful of that. I think other than that, it's a really great day for alone time. Really great day to be with yourself. The coming together of ego and spirit in whatever way that is for you. I think it's great for creativity as well. Let's say
Mhm.
none of this other stuff is happening for you. Great day to tap into your creativity, um, writing, painting, anything that's coming up for you. Nothing is going to really feel solid, but you might get a surge of inspiration. I have this thought, let me just put it down. Let me get this started, and something can come from that.
Yeah. And that is how I actually wrote my little book, which is about, to plug my own little book. It is about fate, and I guess coming back into alignment with your destiny and what your life's purpose is and all of that kind of stuff. I had a vision one day of this scene, and it was October of 2017, and it kept playing over in my mind, and I'm like, I need to write this down. And it was a
Mhm.
little scene, and then that little scene turned into a chapter, and then the thing turned into a whole book. But
Exactly.
we have this is the second time we have this card this month, which is the 10 of Wands, which is the burden. So we had it at the beginning of the month, and then we have it towards the end of the month. And it's the you know okay, so numerologically speaking, 1 to 9 is the cycle, and nines are the ends. But then we have a 10, which again is like the reset. It's like the maximum saturation point before you begin again. So it's kind of funny that we have it twice, because I use two different decks. So we're revisiting something pre-eclipse and post-eclipse, and then you get to put that down. It is the burden. It's like you cleared the thing, so why are you still carrying it? Why are you still talking about it? It's like, just put it down already.
Mhm.
And that's essentially what that means.
Mhm. September 21st, Sun in Virgo creates a trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn at 29 degrees Capricorn. So both the Sun and Virgo, the Sun in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn are at 29 degrees. So what you just said is so important because it's like you understand. You understand what needs to go. That lunar eclipse in Pisces is going to make sure that you know that inside and out. When we have energies at the 29th degree, that's that saturation point. It's that ending. It's the child coming out, right? And into something new because we're about to start a new sign, right? A new cycle. The sun in Virgo at 29 degrees is clarity of all of the stuff that we know. We've taken stock, the facts have been shown to us. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, it's like, we've been here before. We've been here before. I'm at 29 degrees. I'm about to leave. You're telling me you haven't learned the lesson in the last, especially 4 years. Um, Earth energy, you're going to see it and you're going to see it play out in your material world. But I think if there's anything about September is that I think that the material world is finally going to be catching up to to everything we've been processing internally.
Mhm.
So that's a good thing. So if things are ending, like jobs or a place to live, leases, that's a good sign. That's the universe saying, you were waiting for me to tell you when, this is when.
Yeah.
So that's a good day.
Perfect card, Nine of Pentacles. So we just described what nines are. Pentacles, this is material things and finances. This is receiving. Maybe you were waiting for money, you were waiting for grants, you were waiting for something of a financial significance. So whether it's money or a place or a job or whatever, there's an improvement there, like a significant improvement in your material, financial, whatever outlook. It's not just internal, I shouldn't say just outlook, but it's like something tangible. It's something that you can actually count on
Right.
for a change. And it's the recipe is there. So as you're saying, like the last 4 years, we've been telling you whatever. I don't mean us, we, but the universe. Um, there it is. It's like you just follow these steps and there you have it at the end. And stop your kicking and screaming and put down the burden and do the things and check all the boxes, and then there you have it. Like, and it's not the way you expected it to show up. So stop complaining about that. It's
Right.
it reminds me, the way we react to things sometimes reminds me of when my kids were really little, and you prepare something for them. They want to eat spaghetti. I remember my daughter specifically, she loved spaghetti, and it was always an easy thing. I know she would eat all her supper, and I give her spaghetti and I would cut it up for her because she was little. And one day I give it to her and she's freaking out and crying and screaming and everything. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, you cut my spaghetti. And I'm like, but I always cut your spaghetti. And she's like, but I'm a big girl now. I don't need my spaghetti cut. And it's like, I feel like we react that way when the universe gives us stuff. It's like, but I didn't want it in this way. I wanted it in that way. It's the same damn spaghetti. Like, be grateful you have it. And we get caught up in the all of this other stuff and forget that we've just been given an amazing opportunity or an amazing thing, or the thing that we actually really want, but it
Mhm.
doesn't look like the thing that we thought we wanted. So we're like, "Nah, nah, 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 nothing's working. Nothing's working for me."
Right. Whenever we have a connection between the sun and Pluto, and in a trine, and in an earth sign, this is actually really empowering energy. But it's really about doing the things you've been avoiding doing. The
Hmm.
things that you've been avoiding doing that in the long run are going to actually make things easier, that's where you find your empowerment. And this day, this energy is a reminder of that. September 22nd is the Libra equinox. So the day before, September 21st, we have this trine between the Sun and Virgo, Pluto and Capricorn. Stop avoiding doing the things that you need to do. This can be having the conversations, doing all of the steps for your business, doing all of the research, whatever it is that you've been avoiding doing, do it. Take ownership of it. There's something empowering about that. That's the Sun trine Pluto. That takes us into the Libra equinox. So that takes us into a new season for the next 3 months. The balance, right, between night and day. So when we take on when we take on doing the things that we've been avoiding doing from a very honest place. Again, having the conversations we know we need to have with certain people, doing the little things that we need to do for a certain project or business or whatever. That's going to create balance over the next 3 months. That
Hmm.
balance, that harmony that you've been seeking comes from stepping into that empowerment space of saying, I'm the only one responsible for this. Yeah.
So I've switched decks again. We ended up with the Nine of Pentacles and we move into the Ten of Pentacles. So it's sequential. That means things are progressing in a good way. The tens are the maximum. Nines are fantastic. When you get Nine of Pentacles in a reading, it is a very welcome card because it's stuff is coming to fruition, money is flowing, things are coming your way, things that are useful are coming your way. When we get the 10, this is all about community and family and legacy money. And I mean, if the nines are everything kicking in, 10 is one more than that. It's like this one goes up to 11. It's like
Mhm.
it's it's a wonderful card if you are, if okay, we'll put it this way, if that day you do not receive money, it is an indication something comes through. There is like a breakthrough of some kind that at least leads you to, oh, this thing is actually going to work.
Mhm.
Oh, we finally got that thing, so now I know I can actually plan for this. So if the thing doesn't happen on that day, it's something where you can feel like this far-reaching goal is actually going to happen.
Mm.
That's where the feeling is, especially with the buildup from the 9 into the 10. So it's like, oh, progress. Like there is actual progress. Whatever sign from the universe shows up, it is a very positive sign.
Mhm. Also, on September 22nd, we have Venus in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. And then right after that square, Venus enters Scorpio. So it's important to pay attention to Venus's transit through Libra, because that is going to give us a lot of information as to what the solar eclipse in Libra will be for us on October 2nd. This is especially true, I think, on this day, even if it takes place in a different degree. Venus in Libra, 29 degrees. Libra, square Pluto in Capricorn, 29 degrees. So much of the South Node in Libra for a little over a year now has been about we are changing the way we do relationships. We have to let go of codependency. That's been the biggest thing. We have to let go of this feeling we've had of keeping things at an even keel and not, ruffling any feathers, because that's not an honest way of showing up in relationships. So Venus in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn can be a day of tension in relationships, and this can be a few things. One, someone is no longer showing up in the way that they used to. Someone has stronger boundaries, is being a lot more vocal about what they desire, about what they want, who they are now, how they've changed. And the square to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn is people showing you how much they don't like that you've changed and how you've changed, because then that changes their own reality. And really coming at a point of tension for actually having changed the relationship with yourself, therefore the relationship with others. This traditionally, a square between Venus and Pluto can be seen as like manipulation, control, overpowering. Be mindful of those things. Because let's say that you do show up differently. You're a lot clearer, you're a lot more vocal. Somebody might try to dampen that, overpower that, especially if they've been used to that in the past. Then Venus entering Scorpio is about the integration of this. Venus in Scorpio is very powerful. Venus in Scorpio is the deep psyche. So how am I integrating what I'm no longer willing to tolerate in relationships?
Mm. So we've two very interesting cards. We've got, for the first aspect, we have the High Priestess. So
Okay.
the High Priestess has a balancing of dark and light. She sits between these two pillars. Um, there's something always hidden. So she's peeking behind the curtain. She's able to see in other realms. She's able to access other information, but something's still hidden. So how this applies to that day or that energy is, just because you sense something doesn't make it true for everybody. And you may, it's kind of like somebody who's able to, what was that show called with Tim Roth, Lie to Me, where he was like a human lie detector.
Mhm.
He can tell, he can read micro expressions. So he knows that the person is lying, but he doesn't actually know what the lie is about or what the truth is. All he can say is like, no, that's a lie, or he feels contempt. But it's great insight, but there's still like so much more information behind that. And so I think the challenge there is to not think we know everything just because we have this shift in perception,
Mhm.
or because you have that shift in perception, it means this and this and this. Doesn't
Mhm.
We don't know that it means this and this. We just know that this is no longer true, or this is true, or that doesn't apply anymore. But it doesn't mean that there's all sorts of other meanings that we can attach to it. And so that's where I think it can become very confrontational with other people, of going, well, this, and it can be too, I mean, we're faced with this all the time. Somebody says something erroneous about one thing, and now anything they say is like, well, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, no, they made a mistake there, or they didn't know what they're, it doesn't mean they don't know about this and this. So that's kind of that feeling. And then we've got the King of Pentacles, which is a very nice grounding energy to balance off this intuitive thing. The King of Pentacles is calm, grounded, a provider, problem solver, and just kind of knows everything somehow always works out. And that's, again, the progression of the Nine of Pentacles to the Ten of Pentacles to the King of Pentacles, with a little bit of intuition thrown in there that can either redirect you or throw you off. Anyway, balances out again with the King of Pentacles. It's a very nice progression as far as where we're going and our big plans are. Like it's a very nice unfolding, if you will.
September 24th, we have Mercury in Virgo, trine Uranus and Taurus. So here we have Mercury a little behind the sun and repeating certain transits. So the sun the sun in Virgo created a trine to Uranus and Taurus on September 19th. Here we are almost a week later with Mercury doing that. So Mercury, the planet of cognitive thought and communication, now creating a trine to Uranus and Taurus. This is very much because it's a trine, I think this can be like good news for some people. Earth signs, good news around money, potentially, good news around like a deal moving forward, something beneficial, something that will benefit you potentially financially, in this physical realm, in this physical world. That's really great. Mercury and Virgo, trine Uranus and Taurus can be an internal process. This can be, again, like the further understanding of this is how honest I need to be with this. And this is actually a good thing. This is Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So we're Mercury, Uranus is like universal intelligence. And when we open ourselves up to that universal intelligence, we can say, oh, yeah, I guess that would be easier. I guess that would be easier for me if I trusted this new direction, right? So that's an aha moment in itself. But again, it has to come from a place of humility. It needs to come from a place of I'm allowing myself to be led.
Yeah, we have a very pleasant card. Again, a very welcome card, Two of Cups. Balance, reciprocity, friendship, partnership, it could be romance, but it's deeper than that. It's not superficial stuff. It's real. There's some real exchange. And so if it's not to do with other people, but a feeling of like, oh, this is how I get the things to flow. This is how I get these two maybe opposing elements or different elements, how I get them to interplay and have it be beneficial, mutually beneficial. And so there's usually they're exchanging everything. There's this balance in life force, and it's always sunny and warm and pleasant, and the people have complementary, they're not the same, but there's an understanding. Well, I'm giving out this, you're giving this back. Oh, isn't this nice? Oh, look at what we can do. So however that shows up in your life, that is it's always a positive energy. There's really no downside to it.
September 25th, we have Mercury in Virgo in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. And at the same time, Mercury in Virgo is creating a trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. One of the things that's important to remember the week of the 23rd, a lot of information, a lot of communication, but I don't think necessarily room for any new information. So here's what I mean. Mercury and Virgo opposition to Neptune and Pisces. On the one hand, because we still will be working with Mercury and Virgo, trine Uranus and Taurus, is like the potential for good news. It feels like, oh my God, this is so timely. I needed this right now. That's Neptune and Pisces, kind of like that blessing, the thing that comes that feels so divine, right? Trusting in divine timing. The trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn can also serve as a reminder of, oh, this is what happens when I trust. This is what happens when I actually move with the flow of letting go of certain things. I make room for something new, and then the universe reminds me almost immediately. But because Mercury, the planet of cognitive thought and communication, our daily communication, is connecting with these three big planets in 1 week, This is not the moment to have like new conversations or necessarily new agreements. We're not bringing necessarily anything new to the table. We're actually allowing things to kind of close off, because all of these bigger energies from Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have nothing to do with anything we can control. This is really the universe at play.
Mhm.
I think this is going to be a week of great manifestation for a lot of people. Let it happen. Let the universe show you. We cannot outdo, outrun, outsmart Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto. We cannot. Our little Mercury minds, we cannot. So Mercury and Virgo is telling us focus on the day to day, focus on their responsibilities, and let the universe do whatever it's going to do, especially that week.
So if you could pick two cards that talk about serendipity and manifestation, and maybe it's your guardian angel nudging you or whatever,
Yep.
no coincidence, we get the Page of Swords and the Magician.
Wow. Yeah.
So it is all about, and I like that you say it's not new information, but it's like those missing pieces that were there. Like you're doing the same thing. I shouldn't say it in that way because we were just saying, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not that. It's that there's certain ways of doing things, and maybe they were sticking and you hadn't quite perfected it yet. And it wasn't quite going. All of a sudden, it flows because there's all this serendipity, and you're able to manifest things. You're able to see some results. You're able to, oh, finally they're ready for the whatever, and now I can do the other whatever. And oh, we've been missing this element, and it just miraculously shows up, and perfect timing, and all that sort of thing. Like had that thing shown up 3 months ago, you wouldn't know what to do with it. And
Exactly.
so all of these little pieces, it's like these two cards together are phenomenal, and it's like blows my mind that they show up on that day when that's exactly what you just said. So
September 26th, Mercury enters Libra. So here we go from, the previous 2 days, the previous couple of days, like a buildup of
mhm,
manifestation. Mercury then enters Libra, where we really now get to kind of create balance and work with the universe. So the universe is going to deliver some information, some manifestation. The universe is going to deliver something.
mhm.
When Mercury enters Libra is now, okay, now we can come in and play with what the universe has given us, because that's what we do, right? So that Libra is about, let's say you, I don't know, some kind of manifestation, you got an opportunity, you have to sign contracts. So now, okay, how much are you getting paid, for how long, who are you working with, right? That's the Libra energy. Chances are that the manifestations are going to have to do with someone else or another party, another entity, because of that Libra energy. Or again, maybe it's just you working with the universe. So let things happen, and you will get the opportunity to participate in how to move from that point forward.
Again, we have a very good card, the Knight of Cups, which is generally an offer of some kind. It could be a romantic offer, but it can be a work offer. It's coming from a place that whatever the offer is, it feeds your soul or your heart. Like it's not just money for the sake of money. It's like something that you want. So it's not always an offer coming from the outside in. It can also be you offering. Like, so if the universe was giving you something yesterday, well, what can I offer to kind of keep this ball rolling? So it's not just external,
Mhm.
this offer. um there's a lot of reciprocity going on for the last bit of the month, and momentum can build, and I think momentum sort of needs to build for October, November, December, but we'll get into that another time. But
Right.
we do want to do that. We do want to make sure that we're constantly keeping track of our karma points and our, am I doing the right thing? Is my ego in check? Am I da 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 da? And like, so that's part of that feeling of that Knight of Cups is, oh, what can I received this. What can I do in return?
Mm-hmm. September 29th, we have Mars in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. Um, this is supportive energy. Mars, whenever we have a connection between Mars and Saturn, is about strategic action. The understanding that we're going to take action towards something towards like a bigger, longer vision, right? Action, Saturn, something that is sustainable in the long run. This is great motivating energy. Now, the motivation comes from that Cancer Pisces energy. What really matters to me? So when we talked about Mars and Cancer is like what is worth fighting for? What is worth um pursuing? What is worth this Cancer energy? What is worth my soul, right? And Pisces brings this element of devotion. It brings this element of, again, all of this is soul energy. What am I committing to actually doing that is aligned with my soul? And understanding if we're putting a timeline to this, and if this is actually something tangible for you, I would say give it about 6 to 8 months
Mhm.
for you to really see something begin to happen. Not that nothing will happen in between, but 6 to 8 months is a nice period of time to feel like something solid is coming out of this.
Well, okay, you remember we had the 10 of Wands twice, and now we have the 5 of Cups twice. And we talked about it before, like pulling yourself out of a hole, not going into the abyss. In
Mhm.
this particular deck, which is quite traditional, there are 3 cups that are spilt, which is where the figure is looking. Everything's nice on the horizon, the sun's out and everything, and there's still 2 cups standing. So it's a reminder to focus on what's working. Yes, all kinds of things have been taken away, and you walked away from stuff, and stuff has been slapped out of your hand by the universe, and you've been, hit on the head for not paying attention, whatever. But you still have 2 cups. And so it's really about, the glass half full. It's actually completely full. There's a lot of cups, and they all have something in them. So that is the shift in, I think, from this 5 of cups, from the last 5 of cups that showed up. It's like, enough now. Don't, like, we need to stop that old way of thinking and just go, okay, what's working? This is working. I'm going to go with that.
Mhm. I like that you mentioned the abyss because wherever we have water energy, there is an element of just kind of getting lost in the abyss of things, getting swept away, overwhelmed. And here we have Cancer and Pisces, two water signs connecting to one another, which is just kind of like going into that abyss of things. And that's not the point with Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn is about taking action, bringing structure,
Yeah.
because water energy is also really beautifully creative. There's a lot of imagination there, a ton of imagination. And imagination is truly sacred. It doesn't come from the mind. It comes
No.
from somewhere else. Yeah. September 30th, Sun Mercury conjunction in Libra. I like this because this is a few days away from the solar eclipse in Libra that's taking place on October 2nd. Sun, Mercury coming together. The sun brings light to, the sun illuminates an idea. Libra we see both sides. I
Mhm.
think that by the time we get to September, the end of September, it's the entire buildup of September is chipping away at the lack of clarity or the denial of. By the time we get to the end of September and are ready to go into that second eclipse of the season, I think there is clarity. And by clarity I mean honesty, like integrity with the self. This is also important because the last time we had a Sun Mercury conjunction was when Mercury was retrograde, the middle of August. There was something that came to mind, something we realized. We were in the middle of it, in the muck of it. Now we're not in the middle of it. Now we're not in the muck of it. I think we're going to understand with this Sun Mercury conjunction in Libra even more why August was necessary for us.
We have an amazing card for the end of the month. Like, resolution,
Mm.
judgment.
Mm.
It's judgment. It
Very
is,
Libra.
you know, I think, when you talk about like, oh, why did that happen in August? This is this is like a final decision, a final outcome, a final realization of, oh,
Mhm.
why everything was paused. Oh, this is why I broke my leg. Oh, this is why I don't have that thing. Oh, this is why that person is not in my life anymore. Oh, this is why I couldn't move forward. Whatever. It's all like, and it's karmically rebalancing despite our best efforts to keep everything as it was, kicking and screaming. This is karma going, no, your higher self said in this contract back here that you wanted this, this, and this, and this, and you're not doing the things. So we made an executive decision. And you're like going, okay, I get it. I get it. All right. Thank you. I'll stop kicking and screaming. Yeah. It's like resolution, but it's not the end of everything. It's just the beginning. I think it's like people often think of um awakening, which is a similar in different decks they'll often call it awakening too. um Awakening is the beginning
Mhm.
of a cycle. So judgment is, it's final in a certain sense, but it's also the beginning of something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I that's such a perfect card. That's such a perfect card the more I think about it, because this eclipse season is not just this eclipse season. It's obviously connected to the first eclipse season of the year of March and April.
Mhm.
But this eclipse season is very special because it has Pluto retrograde in Capricorn for the very last time in our lives. There is so much pivoting that's happening right now. For some people, yes, you'll see it externally. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of it, like external manifestations, are going to feel like they finally caught up with us with the internal stuff we've been processing. But we will never experience a Pluto retrograde in Capricorn after this season again.
Yeah.
At a soul level, at a karma level, especially with Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the energy of karma. We are ending so many things. I think this is important to say because human life is funny. We measure we measure things, and it's silly to measure things
Yeah.
because I think that for a lot of people who have been like really going at something for years, and it's like, what am I doing wrong? Why does it look like it's working out for everybody but not me? Look, I think that Pluto leaving Capricorn in November and really settling in Aquarius from that point forward is going to, for a lot of people, begin to feel like, oh, this is my time. my time has finally come. Maybe not at the end of the year. You're going to have to probably give it another year or two.
Yeah.
But this is why we can't measure in years. It's so small. We
I
have
think
to
it's,
measure in soul.
yeah, and I think the judgment there is a very significant thing. Like the buildup, when I look at all the cards, they're sequential. We
Yeah.
even switch decks.
Mm-hmm.
They're improving, they're escalating, culminating. It's at least we know, oh, this is why. So now it gives you some kind of peace of mind moving forward, going like, I can accomplish these things. Like it is pivotal. Everything is going to change. Everything in 2025 will be different. Nobody alive on the planet has experienced this configuration before.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to live to be old enough to see it again.
Right.
So it is pivotal. You look at individually what we're going through, how many people are on the planet. You look at the collective consciousness. You look at the human population on the planet. Everything is different. And we are going through an upheaval and it's uncomfortable. But we just need these little signs to say, hey, you know what? That's working. This is working. The truth is coming out. That old way is disintegrating. Yeah. And that's, I feel like we're getting confirmation with, with, just this reading. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel better about September because I think there are a lot of things that are going to make sense at the end of it.
Yes. Yes.
And it's almost gonna, I think that eclipse is going to very much split the month in half, and it'll feel like there will be a strong sense of a before and after.
I think so. Yeah.
And if we remember how quickly eclipse energy changes things and moves things, we'll see we'll see a lot of it in September. So we will catch you all in October. Is there anything that you have going on right now? Any offerings?
Um, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things, but I've got writing workshops going on. I call it Unleash Your Narrative, because my other hat that I wear is a ghostwriter and writing coach. The way I speak is no indication of how I write, because it's just blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sessions and everything else. If you are interested in getting my little book, it's a light little story, but there is a message underneath. So the magnificence of Edward. It's just a fun light little book with a message that hopefully I will get that onto. That's one of the to-do things for the fall, is to get it on Audible so that people can listen.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I got going on. How about
Okay.
yourself?
Yeah, I actually do have an eclipse guide that is on my website, to kind of to guide you through this eclipse season. There are 6 short lessons, 3 meditations, and a workbook, for $25 so that you can go in there, get educated about the whole season, really walk through this with intentional meditation, and have all the information you need to get a good grasp on all of this.
Very nice.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. And here we go. How to sign off there.